Hi, welcome back to Sherry's Crocheted Happiness, my temperature blanket blog. I have finally caught up on my temperature blanket, and I am needing to put in December 31st, 2019. Today is January 1st, 2020. Not a very eventful evening at our house. We played Monopoly, Toy Story Monopoly. Watched some... oh my gosh, Tim the Toolman Taylor. I can't think of what the name of that show is off the top of my head right now, but we watched some of that last night. So nothing too exciting, but we did ring in the new year. We stayed up all the way until midnight. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with my temperature blanket as I'm doing this very last row of 2019, and just let you know what my experience was with doing this blanket. I was not sure at the beginning of the year how this was going to play out because I am busy with a full-time job. I have a son that plays baseball 4 or 5 months out of the year, maybe even a little bit longer than that. Anyways, I just had a lot going on, and it's a big commitment. It's a huge commitment to crochet a row every day for 365 days. However, things that I've learned, I can check my temperature as far back as the entire year, and I can catch up on my temperatures if I missed them or if I got, for whatever reason, didn't get them. And so I would write them down in my book, and if I missed it, I would go back and find it on my temperature. I was able to Google past temperature history in Kennewick, Washington, and was able to get that caught up. So if you're not able to crochet every day, then by all means you should be able to go back and find the temperature. I've seen some posts on some crochet pages that I follow where people are wanting to do temperature blankets from the year that they were born, and they're successfully finding the temperatures from even back in the 60s, or I'm sure it's easier to find them, you know, the closer to this year than it is to go all the way back to like the 50s or 60s or something like that. All right, so our temperature yesterday here in Kennewick was actually 60 degrees. So I am putting on the green color, which was my 60s. I've had some 30s, 30s, 40, and then 60. And December, if you'll remember, I use a elongated stitch here, double crochet, so that I can remember where each month started. And so this is December 1st right here, and then this is the whole month of December. So the pink is 30, the purple was 40, the green was 50, and 50 was the blue, I'm sorry, and the green was 60. So you can see we actually didn't have a very cold December. No snow in December, but if you'll recall, we didn't get much snow last December either. It all came in February when we had a ton of snow. And even during the summertime, I had discussed it on one of my first blogs about the temperature and how I was afraid that I might have to find some more colors to go into the summer for if it got over 110, because I did a color for 100 to 110, so if it got over 110, and you know, we had 3 whole days that were over 100. So very surprising that the temperature was very mild this year, and not a lot of heat this summer. We'll see how this year pans out. I guess you can't see what I'm crocheting here, can you? You know, to quote not Toy Story, Back to the Future, which is one of my other favorite movies, when Marty McFly says, "Since when can a weatherman predict the temperature, much less the future?" Well, this year was definitely that year, because I would have expected there to have been a lot warmer days during the summer, and we didn't get them. So as I'm finishing up this last row, let me just remind you, if you haven't seen the beginning videos, I'm doing a half double crochet. I crocheted 150 chains across. That's how wide my blanket is. And then I've just crocheted one row every day to correspond with the temperature for that day. And my temperatures were in increments of 10. So 0 to 10, 10 to 20, and so on. And I picked colors that I liked and that went well together. And I have just been able to catch up, like I was saying at the beginning of this video, when I wasn't able to do it. Craft fair season time and orders for Christmas really got me bogged down and got me behind. Now that it's a little slower, I can catch up on some other projects I have going on, and I still have a few orders coming in that I'm catching up on, but I have a little bit of time to catch up on this, and I wanted to get this done today so that I can get on with some other projects. So one other thing that I learned, and I'll show you in just a second because I am almost halfway done with this row here. I learned that if I were to ever do another crow temperature blanket, I would probably not do an entire row for each color because my blanket is 1,000,000 miles long. It is 365 rows, so you can imagine how long that is. So if I were to do another one, I would probably do 2 days in a row, you know, so halfway do one day and then do the other day, the other half of that row. That might make my blanket a little smaller, or maybe do a week in a row, figure out how many stitches I can do for each day to make it so that I don't have, so it's only 52 rows long instead of 365. So I am still trying to work down this row here. So let me show you. This is how much I have left to go for this day to finish off this blanket, but let me just show you how big this blanket actually ended up being. So remember, here's where December starts. So there's December. This is November. So we had some 50s. We did mostly 40s, 50s, and 60s in November. And then October, pretty much the same thing. We had some 70s in there. That's the yellow. October. September. Let me find the end where September starts. Okay, so there's November. Oh, September right here. We even had some 80s in September. That's the orange, and then the 90s was the red. September. And August. 80s, 90s. There's two of our hundreds right there with that purple. August. And then we've got July. One more day of hundreds. The rest were 80s and 90s. And then June. Oh, there's one more day. One more day of 100. So we had 4 whole days that went over 100 for this year. Okay, otherwise 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Alrighty. May. 50s, 60s, 70s. April. April to May. There's April. Nice mild April. March. Now, March, we're getting into those colder days. So 20s and 10. So we had a couple of days that were below 10. And that's it. Let's see, April, March. So February was when we had all of that snow, and you can see there's a bunch of 20s and 30s in there. And then January was pretty mild as well. So that is how long my blanket is. If I fold this guy in half, it is still, I'm getting my, oops, there's my working length, my working end right there where I just finished. I gotta finish that last little row there. All right, let's see if you can get an idea. I don't know how big this blanket is. I think I'm still gonna love this blanket on my couch. Okay. That is folded in half and in half. And that is the entire length of this blanket. Got some January in there. But definitely a fun project. Definitely something I might try again, knowing some of the things that I would do differently this time around, just because it is such a huge blanket. It is such a huge undertaking, but I really enjoyed doing it, and I had everybody at my work was getting involved in it too, because they were asking me how my temperature blanket was coming along, and they've all asked me about it, and I'm anxious to take it to work and show everybody. The one thing I think I am going to do, and I haven't decided what color to do around the border, but I do feel like I want to do a border around it. Maybe since my 60s color, my green, was the last color I used, maybe I will do the entire thing around in green. I was kind of thinking maybe doing, you know, so much of the 0 to 10, so much of the 20, 30, 40, so that I kind of had a remembrance, or could remember which colors went with which. But I think it's pretty easy to remember which temperature went with which color. Plus I have my papers written down that also tell me what colors, what temperatures they were for the day, so I can look back at that and reference that if I needed to. So anyways, thank you for following along with this. I know that there was quite a big gap, mostly during baseball season and craft fair time, when I was not keeping up on this like I should have. But hopefully if you continued with your temperature blanket, you have been able to catch up, and you are putting your last row on today as well. So I will try to do some other videos with some other projects, and just, you know, I just don't know how I feel about sitting there crocheting while you're watching me, because I don't know how that is. But anyways, maybe I can talk about how I make my headband or something of that nature. Anyways, so don't forget to check out Sherry's Crochet on Facebook. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will get some other videos out there. So thank you so much for following along, and Happy New Year.